Right. So you raised money at a young age, right? I think your ambition to do that is not in everybody. Do you disagree with that? You think everyone can raise funds, raise capital?
Well, it's what, what is your plan? What are you going to do with the money? I heard you guys talking a little bit earlier,
Hmm.
off air. Everything is disclosure in when you're raising capital. When I sit with people, when you talk about rates of returns, I think it's, the people that get into it in the beginning, they think they're going to lure people in by giving a higher rate return. I think that's a demon, because that can cause a lot of problems. You have to know when you're raising capital, what rate of return with the assets that you're buying works for your model. That model might be for you 6%, 8%, 10%. Look, I know a lot of people in the note business were raising capital at a higher rate because there was more juice, meat on the
Hmm.
bones, right? But
Mhm.
into that,
Yep.
those notes came way down. And if you were paying 12, 13%, probably getting your ass kicked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when people come to me and they approach about giving me money and investing with me, I actually basically I interview them today. I go, what are you looking for? What's your time horizon? Are you using your IRA? Are you using your self-directed IRA? Because
Mhm.
if they go into these high rate of returns, the fantasy, I just go, look, I'm just not for you. And then it goes into age categories, right? I don't even when I'm in the middle of raising capital, or if I am at that, if I'm in a period where I'm raising, I don't even really talk to 30, 40-year olds because they're looking to make the kill. They're not looking for the consistent return. They're really
Mhm.
looking to get rich quick and make a big return on their capital.
Do
Me,
you think that's a right mentality for a 30 or 40-year-old looking back now?
no, I think I always tell everybody when I mentor people in their 20s and 30s, look for a consistent return over a long period of time because they don't understand compound interest. When you
Mhm.
lose money, man, there's a long way back from that loss. But if you take consistent returns, and I look for investors that want fair exchange. My life is about fair exchange. I want my investors to wholeheartedly want us to succeed for a long period of time. And I look for the investor that wants that. It's a fair exchange from us to them on wanting us both to succeed and have that journey for a long period of time. And that's about consistent returns and compounding and educating them. So it's really, I actually look, I think anybody, if they, you do something enough times, you have enough conversations, you can raise capital if you want to, but then there's a lot to go in that. Securities attorney, how long you're going to keep their money, how you're going to pay them back. It's really easy to take people's money, but
Mhm.
I don't take people's money, but I have to have the exit strategy when I'm going to pay them, how I'm going to pay them back. A lot of these people out there, I see they take the money, but they really don't have the exit strategy of when they're going to pay the person back. And that day will come. So, for us, when I'm doing it, we take them for a term. It could be a 3, 4 year term, but then I'm calling them actually a year before and go, hey, I do other things before, but at that end, I'll call them 9 months to a year before and ask them, when do you think you're going to want your back? Your term is up in 9 months to a year. Do you think you're going to want your money back, or do you think you're going to want to extend? Now, when I get to that 6 month point, they got to give me an answer, like, because I have to plan for that. I can't
Mhm.
wait a month before their term's up and then tell me that they're going to need their money back or they want to reinvest, because I got to
Mhm.
make sure I have things for them to
Yep.
reinvest in.
Gotcha.
And it takes time to turn things around. Like you can't, whether it's a property, whether it's a note, you know, I need my money next week. Well,
Yeah,
hang on.
so this is kind of funny, actually. Me and Kerry found this. We found my flip chart. And when I started out, it was really, you can tell somebody verbally about anything, but they really don't get it until they see it, right?
Yeah.
True.
So, and I used to go around and sit with people, but I would literally have like a 10-page little book, right? And I would just flip it and I would take them through, okay, this is kind of when I was at Temple. This property is going to cost me 225. The rehab's going to be 125. if I take your money and pay you a rate of return, I'm going to end up here and we'll be at 75% loan to value, right? Because then when I'm done my rehab, talk about rehab and properties, when I'm done the rehab, I'm going to be all in for, it was 330. It was actually when I was doing duplexes at Temple, it was all in it. I didn't want to be over 337.5 because I created equity. I never have bought equity. So when I would do that refi with the commercial bank, I knew my property would have to appraise for 450 grand. It's crazy how I remember this. So if I was buying that duplex and doing that rehab or build, I knew I could go over, but I knew my goal was to be at 337.5 because if you do the math, I would need an appraisal at 450. Then I could go to a commercial bank after I had my tenants and the co-signers of the parents. I know that 75% of 450 is 337.5.
So let's go back a minute.
And then I'd be
right?
into the deal with no money out of my pocket.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Let's go back. Your first fund you created, right? Without getting too in the weeds, were you nervous? Were you excited? Were you forced into it? Where you're just stuck? What happened there? That first fund? I think I met you probably 2013. We were at a conference in Jersey. I think you're raising like 5 or 8 million. That was one of your first, I believe. And you were
No,
starting
actually, when I went, I hired a securities attorney. His name's Craig Sapetti. He's out of New Jersey.
Yep.
And we just had long conversations over about a 2 or 3 month period of how the structure would be, writing the private placement, all your disclosures, risk factors, educating them about what I've done, where I've come from, how much business I've done, how many flips I've done. We were actually doing it to buy notes. No, because I think when you do the beginning process, which can't be like, all right, let's just go raise money. I think that would have been fearful, but I felt pretty good about, once we started taking money, it's pretty incredible. We were, it started with me raising capital, and then we were helping another company out. We were investing in their private, and they were actually already paying us a rate of return when I gave them money. So we were instantly profitable in the first month. So it all comes down, fear will limit everything. We talked about fear earlier. It's more, I'm fearful of not succeeding if I don't do the things I'm doing. I'm not fearful of doing the things that I'm doing. I'm fearful of not creating success for me and my investors. But no, if you have a really good solid plan of who you're raising capital from, you have your private placement, you have your securities attorney, you have the plan of what you're going to do with their money, I think it makes it easier, right? So it's almost like doing a mock raise or a mock raise into a mock investment and knowing all of the things that could go wrong. When people come to me for money, all they do is tell me, this is what's going to go right, and we're going to kick ass. Be amazing. I'm like, all right, well, tell me what's going to be not amazing if this works out, if interest rates go up, if your project gets delayed. I want to know all these things. It's just got to be logical what you're investing in, because a lot of people come to me for capital to do ground up construction. And I just really don't want to do it anymore, because the process, I can't tell you, out of 10 people that I've helped do that, it's always extended out a year. The project never gets done on time.
Have you ever gotten raw land? That's a big one right now. I've seen a lot of. Have you ever?
Yeah, we're hearing a lot about that these days.
Raw land.
I have it. I have to admit that I think I'm a badass, but I'm not a badass in development. I'm going through that process right now.
Yeah.
I'm going through that process right now where I have a property on Siesta Key, which I should actually knock it down and rebuild it. This is a good point. So I have this amazing property on Siesta Key, and it's from 1950, and it does about $400,000 a year in revenue. It kicks ass.
Awesome.
But the play here really is, and I'm going to sell it soon. I've made that decision. But the real play is to knock it down and rebuild luxury penthouse condos on the property, because I got a 12,000 square foot lot. But I'm not a builder, so I'm not going to do it. You know, I want to do it. I think I'm Mr. Badass. I've accomplished everything so far that I've wanted to. I got more goals. I got more accomplishments
Compliments.
to
Yes.
make.
Yeah.
But I'm not a builder, and that process can be painful. And I called a couple builder friends, and they're saying, "Look, Steve, you are not a builder. You got to go hire a builder. You got to go through that process. You're not going to sleep at night. Sell the property and let someone else do what they're good at."
Yeah.
And that's what I think me and Perry have done a tremendous job in building our company is
Sure.
we don't try to do everything. We created a company where we put people in place. We have strategic partners that we do a lot of business with, and we share in the assets. Sometimes we do equity deals. Sometimes I just lend them money to do the deal. So I don't try to do things that I'm not good at. I do the things that I'm really good at.
What would you say? I know a lot of people always ask, like, you know, raising capital seems like a nice, fun thing to do. And a lot of people get stuck finding the person, right? It seems to me is that, you know, you're not looking, right? But where would you say when you first got started, were you going to find someone to get capital from? Were you live events, talking to RIAs, or was there something different that you just took a different angle? Because you're not the typical cup of tea out there that does things that everyone else does.
Yeah, look, you start out with friends, family, people you know. If those people won't lend you money, you're screwed. So look, the first person that lent me money was my best friend. He lent me $35,000. And then it led to his neighbor. And then it just led to people that had confidence in me to take their money and do the right thing with it. You know, that's how it started out with me. And you've never, ever seen me in an event raising capital in front of people that I don't know. I just think it's more of a challenge. R is more referral based. I never go to people that I don't know or I just meet to try to raise capital. It starts out with people that you know. I think by giving them the plan, the structure of what you're doing, I think that's key. Getting it, you know, I said taking their money, then the most important back, educating them how they're going to get their money back. But no, I just believe it's too much work to go to people that you don't know. I think it's, you know, I would bring in an investor that I knew. 3 months later, I would call them. Am I doing everything I'm supposed to do? I was really big in network marketing, so I learned this. If I've had Harry that lent me so much money, after 3 months, 6 months, I'd go back to Harry and I go, Harry, I could really appreciate it. Put me in front of 3 people that might want to invest with me like you have.
Yeah.
Because they're your best marketing people are your current investors. So
Yeah.
once you get a couple and they go, look, they're busy people. You know, I say 3 people to them, kind of work like network marketing. I went to Harry and go, put me in front of 3 people or ask 3 people they might want to invest and you give them your experience that you have with me.
Gotcha.
And he would bring me back 1 person. He wouldn't bring me 3.
So just
Sure.
a reminder for everyone, this is recorded. Yes, there'll be our podcast as well as on our YouTube channels. They're available. We had a couple quick questions. One came from a different source where, do you ever go to an event? I know I don't think you're a big golfer, but if you were going to a sporting event, do you ever bring up the fact that what your job is, what you do, deal flow? Because I remember when we first met, you said, "What's my job? I raise capital. That's my job."
Yeah, well, I think a big mistake is we get diarrhea mouth of telling people how awesome we are in real estate. We talk about our real estate properties. You talk about what your needs are. So I might bring up my business, but I talk about what my needs are. So I used to tell people, when the downturn, I was like, man, you brought up being a real estate investor. People were just laughing at you that you got your ass kicked 14 years ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when I would go out and talk to people, I didn't even bring up that I was doing real estate. I would bring up that I raised capital and I would bring up self-directed IRAs. I mean, that was really cool when I walked into a restaurant or a bar setting and I go, hey, what do you do for a living? Right? The classic setup. Hey, what do you do for a living? Hey, I'm a plumber. Oh, what do you do for a living? And I wouldn't say I did real estate. I said I raise capital for a living. And I teach people how to use self-directed IRAs.
Boom.
That second part of that was amazing because people still don't understand self-directed IRAs, but then I got them asking me questions
Yep.
instead of me asking them for anything. And I'd be like, you never heard of self-directed IRAs? And I would kind of like mess with them to make them feel like a tiny bit of a fool, not crush them. But I can get away with that with my personality. And they would just want to learn more. And I would say, hey, let's talk and I'll start teaching you self-directed IRAs. You just don't have to be in equities. There's a great opportunity to move to self-directive IRAs. And you can basically invest in a bunch of different things, not only real estate, but companies and different types of assets. So that was a big game changer for me.